Okay, there we go. Good. All right. For some godforsaken reason, it decided to disconnect my mic. Anyway. Hey, guys. Another patch. And I guess we're here for that. Kind of afraid to look at the amount of alterations there are this time, considering the changes that were made, but here we are. Hey, Kyle. All right, so we'll start from the top as always. We're gonna check out the shop, check out the gacha, check out the stuff on Twitter, alterations, and then wrap up. Yeah. Interesting choice of welfare suit this time, the Try-On 3. It's been a long time since the original for that came out, so. And I also feel very, what's the word? I guess I feel dubious about its claim of it being the strongest mobile suit. It's quite the stretch there. Anyway, the Gundam Try-On 3. Almost forgot about the DST stuff today again as well. I remember last week or not last week, a couple of weeks ago, it had slipped my mind that DST was a thing and started really late. So I'm glad it didn't happen this time. Also, yeah, dinner. So apologies in advance for that. But it's either that or it goes ice cold. I don't like that future very much. Hey, Delta. Alright, so Gundam Try-On 3. Start with the noggin. What do we got? The High Mega Cannon. A- Pierce, D Power. Alright, the D Power pretty much makes it worthless from the get-go. It's not gonna do anything. There's no point. Alright. Statistically. Alright, not too bad, actually. Looking at like 1450 or so melee attack, which is definitely on the higher end of the curve as far as welfare heads go for melee damage. Not the highest, but definitely sits up there pretty comfortably. Shot attack, 3500. Again, for a welfare, good stuff, and after carryover, it's like 36 or so. Honestly, yeah, statistically, that looks really good. It does seem to be kind of that balanced suit approach, though. So we'll see how that carries on through the rest of it. For tags, heavy armor transformer. Heavy armor, okay. You know, it's one of the not primary tags you'd put on a shot or melee, so it falls into that tertiary field, same with transformer. Between the two, I'd honestly say Transform is probably the better pick between the two of them, just because of the amount of traits that it activates, general availability on known good parts, but they're both usable for sure. Overall, the EX skill just completely nuked most of the value here. Statistically, at least, it's nice. Alright, torso. What do we got here? The Hyper Manovsky Shohoken Trizen. A- power, D Pierce. It's kind of in line with what we'd expect to see from a welfare, so that's fine. Raise melee attack of your squad by 20%. Okay, bindable. Yeah, it's honestly... Oh, you know, hold on, let me crack up those values. 29%, that's still not that great. For a welfare, though, 29% is a really good number. We've seen this go up to 39% on welfares before, but those are definitely more the outliers than anything. 29%, workable. You can replace this with like 101 other EX skills, though, so don't look at this as like a long-term thing. But early on, this will be great. Yeah, A- power is not... It's pretty good, honestly. I was expecting more like a B+ thing, but cool. Statistically... Okay, again, we're looking at a very balanced suit here. So one thing to note, this suit has very little defense. Most of its stats have been geared purely into the offensive categories. While on one hand, that's nice, just raw power. You don't need to worry about change gears or anything. Flip side is, it's a very glass cannon type of suit, because no defense, really, you know? Anyways, so statistically, we're looking at like 1700-ish or so melee attack and about 1550, 1600 shot. really good numbers for a welfare torso. Keep in mind, right? Typically, seeing above 1,000 is really nice. Above 1,200's like really, really good. So this one just for a welfare chest, excellent, 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 excellent. Heavy armor transformer tags again. Again, like I said previously, workable tertiaries, nothing jaw-dropping or whatnot. Oh, hey, sweet. You really couldn't do much on those, huh?
I think I ate like half the box, bro. I think you'd be surprised. Try this fucking buttermilk shit. Or blackened shake. I don't know. Whatever. It's pretty good.
Is it? I'll take your word for it. Let's try it. It is really good, actually. Damn. Only 3 alterations. I'll count my blessings on that. It means I can finish the stream at a reasonable hour. Alright, let's check out the arms. Armed booster, B power, D pierce, low cooldown. Alright, so it's kind of like a pocket rocket deal. Alright, on paper, reads really nice. In practice, I'd have to see it in action, you know? You do detach your arm, you got a rocket punch going. That does negate a lot of the typical issues we see with a physical melee skill, primarily in how easy is it to whiff and how easy is it to get out of a long combo. This seems to be just a fire, hit, full impact, damage dump, and you're done. If that's the case, excellent. But again, I'd have to see it in action. On paper, looks great. Especially considering it's like a ranged physical melee skill. Those are pretty rare if it works as what's typed. Alright. Stats. Yeah, look at that. No shot defense at all. So melee attack on these arms, 3,700. Really good. Not the best we've seen again. But definitely puts it up there. Okay. And shot attack, 1,560. So, this, very interesting. Shot attack puts it in kind of like a mid-ish bracket post-power creep for kind of where we'd expect welfare arms to go if it's a shot machine. With 3,700 melee attack, that puts it raw value kind of where we'd expect a good melee suit to be, but because it has very little carryover, carries it to like 3,760 or something, kind of around there, give or take. That's not... The arms seem almost like the weakest part here out of all of it. The numbers are still good, don't get me wrong. It's just when I look at like the torso with its numbers and then look at this, it's like, it's not bad. As far as like new player stuff goes, yeah, I'd take it. Good stuff. Cool beans. Okay. Legs. Raptor Breaker, B Pierce, B Power. Interesting. All right. So you reduce the target's melee attack by 29%. Okay. Only so much use there. But B Pierce and B Power on a very low cooldown. That's some really, really good stuff to see. So no complaints there. Good stuff. Overall, this EX skill, yeah, I like it. It's pretty good, actually. Okay. Okay, so statistically... those values are very similar to the torso. Alright, should be kept in mind. Legs in the backpack tend to have the lowest stat distribution of the entire suit. Seeing above 1,000 on these is really good for melee and shot attack. Seeing over 1,200 is excellent. Seeing over 1,400 is amazing for these two slots. So these numbers, very, very impressive for a leg frame slot. Obviously, lack of defense is a big issue on this suit, but hey, just don't get hit. Ever think about that one, Chief? Tags, We do have high firepower on here, which is a very flexible, powerful tertiary tag, available on a ton of parts. I find it kind of interesting. I didn't notice a single primary tag on this entire suit. Okay. So we have a, on paper, powerful EX skill, very good stat distribution, and 2 workable tertiary tags. Because again, all right, even though on paper this looks really good, I'd have to see the actual animation. I'm pretty sure it's a clone of the original Tryon 3 in terms of animation, but that suit came out so long ago, frankly, I just forget the animation altogether. All right. Check out our backpack. Double cannonade, A- Pierce, D power. Okay. D power makes a complete wash. Statistically, much like the legs, we see some very high offensive values on here. After carryover, just shy of 1700 melee attack and just over 1600 shot attack. Great numbers. Honestly, overall, like, the frame of this suit packs a lot of punch. I'm not 100% sure about, like, the utter lack of defense on this thing, frankly. But you know what? It's definitely shifted everything into just do damage and don't take damage, you know? They could have done some really cool stuff with this, considering the OG Tryon 3 just got an altar. But no, they just copy-paste the shit chest. It is what it is, right? Like, we can't really do anything to stop it. They have a lot of, like, options to do cool stuff, but whether or not they do is really up to them. So, the frame of the Tryon, so the head, torso, arms, leg, backpack, tons of offensive stats, very little in terms of defense. A couple of its EX skills on paper look very, very powerful, but it does boil down to the animation. A couple of them are an absolute travesty with D power. Don't even bother with worrying about the EX skills on those. Good punch packed. All right, let's check out its weapons, and then we'll move on to our gacha, which should be relatively quick. So, the Hyper Manovsky Chohokin, the big ol' sword. When armor is 70% or less, EX skill power boosted by 35%. Okay, so if this was before we had the cost removal, this may have been good, because you could have started with this buff, but because we have unlimited cost now, you are forced to wait and take damage, or just take damage in general, before this activates. Not atrocious, I guess. For new players, this is actually not too bad. You're probably going to get clipped a couple of times while you're still figuring things out and you don't have a ton of stats. And the 35% is a big boost. No questions there. That is very, very high. Very high for a welfare. Typically, we see 25% or so. 30% stays for like 4-star gacha stuff. 35%, awesome to see. I just don't like that activation trigger. I think that's kind of iffy. Statistically, okay. So as far as melee weapons go in the welfare category, it does sit very high up, definitely top 5%. We've seen weapons go well above 3,900 before, I believe even past 4K for melee welfare stuff. So this, definitely good, not the best, but up there for sure. And it even comes with a little bit of pocket shot attack, 300 and change. Cool. Heavy armor, high firepower, workable tags. Man. Chicken's really good. Alright. Good stuff. And lastly, the Hyper Beam Saber. While heavy armor, debuff EX skill effect up 22%. So, heavy armor is definitely a workable tertiary. It does activate a handful of traits, this being one of them. Debuff EX skill effect. This game works with flat addition on its multiplier, or I guess it's percentage base, best way to put it. So if you have a stat, for example, that gives you 29%, we have a skill that reduces the enemy's melee attack by 29%, right? 29% plus 22%. There you go. And that's your simple math. That's like what, 51? Yeah. So it's not the highest number we've seen. These can get ridiculously high, like plus 50% and higher. But for a welfare, 22% is definitely in the realm of what we'd expect. I don't know if you want to have heavy armor, though, to kind of activate this. That seems... Depends on your build. This is kind of a mileage may vary if you're running debuffs. All sorts of stuff. Not terrible, not great. One of those, okay. They've finally given up on 3-star pilots. Oh, have they? I'm looking forward to checking that out. So, overall, Tryon 3 packs a ton of offensive stats. For any new players that are picking this game up, I do highly recommend getting this suit. You will have a lot of power available to you once you start working on it, getting it up there in levels. Overall, yeah. Shame about some of the EX skills, though. All right, let's go take a look. No. Yes, there we go. It is so hard to sit here with this chicken in front of me and not just demolish it. I'm trying to get this done quickly so I can eat this while it's still warm. Tough life. All right. So we have our Gundam Exia Dark Matter 7 stars. So I'm skipping that. I'll just cover it in alteration. But we will take a look at our Stargazer rep, Celine McGriff. It's not the first time we've had just a 4-star pilot in the gacha, and I guess that's what you mean by they finally gave up on 3-star. This isn't the first time this has happened, Alex. They've done this before. This is just one of those like interlude kind of gachas where they just had the 1 4-star. Now, just eat the chicken with one hand. It's kind of hard to do because like depending on it's fried chicken, right? So as you're eating it, it's gonna have like little bits flake off while you're eating it, and I don't want to make a mess everywhere because, you know, I'm at my computer. I'd like to keep it kind of clean. So I want to eat over the box with 2 hands to make sure it stays as clean as I can. The drumsticks are gone already. All that's left is not drumsticks. So what can you do? Anyways, Celine McGriff. Let's take a look at what we got. While Pro Tag, buff EX skill time up 30%. So, protagonist, very, very common word tag. It's core on melee machines with that 10% melee attack boost. Buff EX skill time up 30%. So, the beef with that, it pretty much boils down to, typically when you have a buff on you, the time that it's active is more than enough to clear a stage, because those run for like 30 seconds plus on average. Most of them will run a lot longer than that. If you need to increase the duration of the buff, your issue really isn't so much the buff itself. You need to address other stuff at that point. I would say for a brand new player, this may be an interesting trait, just because early on the fights do typically take longer. You're typically fighting for like a minute or so, whittling stuff down. But once you get to kind of mid-game, fights are taking 20 seconds or less on average. End game, it's seconds at best. So frankly, this has a very limited mileage setup kind of deal. That's pretty much what it boils down to. We have a ton of pilots with better traits, so I don't know about this. As far as putting her on your custom skin goes, because you look at her and you're just like, woof, yeah, sure, man, go ham, do whatever. Like, it's up to you there. All right. Now, she does have a supporter job license. That does heavily reduce the viability of front slotting Celine, because supporter doesn't actually give you any stat bonuses. It does reduce the cooldowns of healing type EX skills, and those aren't terribly common nor very helpful in killing the other guy. So with that in mind, you're probably not going to be fronting her on your main suit. You may have her on an alt, you may use her as custom skin, may have her on the back for whatever reason. You do you. Pro tag, support type. Pro tag, again, very powerful core melee tag. You got that 10% melee attack. Support type, that is a very, very low use case tag. It activates very few, if any, part traits. I think it's like 5 or less currently that are good. I should specify that. And honestly, the buffs that it gives, like, it does give you some shot attack buff, but considering the amount of traits it activates, I don't really know if it's worth it, honestly. You'd be better off with, like, long range, even high firepower, just because of what it activates, and if you have access to, obviously. But, okay, they're workable tags. You can definitely back slaughter for those. Statistically, we're looking at about, 1,300 change melee attack. Not terrible. Not great. If she was a 3-star pilot, this would be pretty good, but she's not. And canonically, the Stargazer was more of a... I don't even really know how to classify it, because it used that, like, the beam ring, which is both melee and range simultaneously. So I expected kind of hybrid stats, but based on the numbers I'm seeing, they're like, nah, man, it's a shot machine. So we'll treat it like she's a shot machine pilot, I think is the best way to approach this. So with that in mind, her having a low-end melee attack, totally acceptable, because the trade-off is she comes packing the heat with shot. We're looking at about 3,100 or so shot attack, kind of in that bracket range. That's really good for just a basic gacha 4-star pilot, no alterations available or anything. Not the best, but really, really good. So statistically speaking, she does pack a good amount of heat. Like, that is some good shot attack for a 4-star pilot. Trait-wise, I think it's kind of a wash at the end of the day. And word tags, workable. One of them is core. One of them, I'm not really going to put any support behind it. Support type's just not... Very interesting 4-star pilot. That's what I'm going to say here. Definitely worthy of backslotting just for the pro tag, word tag. Beyond that, though, limited viability. Custom skin worthy, sure. I thought the previous event was the first one to only have a 4-star pilot. Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say. This isn't the first time it's happened, right? For all we... they may bring back 3-star pilots, they may not. But this isn't the first time we've had... Sorry, to be more clear, this isn't the first time we've seen them remove stuff from the gacha to bring it back, right? For a very long time, we were under the impression we wouldn't be getting basic 4-star suits in the gacha anymore. We thought it was just going to be, limited Sokais, and they had just done away with the 4-star stuff. They did eventually bring it back. Much like here, where we've seen 4-star pilots, no 3-star pilots, they may eventually bring it back. We don't know, and they really haven't communicated. But that's fine, right? At the end of the day, it's really a wait and see. That's how all gacha games go, quite unfortunately. You don't know until it happens. It's kind of the name of the game, for what that's worth. So, anyways, interesting pilot. Now, let's check out our Twitter video on our Exia, and then we will roll into alterations. Twitter. Excellent. And make it visible. Opa. Alright, and this should be yes. Alright, let's take a look. What are we packing? Probably the same as the original, I'd reckon, right? Yeah, some beam blasts, cool. Flashy. Very interesting. Okay. I'm not quite sure how to feel about these EX skills. Okay. Very interesting. Let's take a look at the actual suit here in alterations, and we'll go from there. Eating ASMR. No. No ASMR for me. I do enjoy watching my ASMR, but I'm not going to do ASMR. That would require a lot of finagling with my microphone to begin with. No thanks. Do you have at least 6 times the passion of ordinary flamenco to review this suit? I'd laugh, but it wasn't funny. Amazing Exia would have been better. Well, it's what it is. Alright. Well, let's take a look at the Gundam Exia Dark Matter, starting from the top. Now, for anyone that hasn't seen me do an alteration before, which I doubt any of you are, but just in case, when looking at them, I pretty much ignore the stats these days for 7-star suits because they are effectively hand-tuned for 7-star. It is safe to assume it's always going to be a power creep. With that in mind, I'm going to be looking at the part traits, EX skills, and word tags. Part trait / EX skill always gets an upgrade from an alteration. Word tags don't, but as I don't look at it in the gacha originally, because 7-star, may as well just look at alteration, should definitely look at them here. So with that in mind, we'll start with the Exia Dark Matter head and work our way down the suit. So, part trait. When close combat, enemy melee damage plus 40%. For anyone that's not exactly clear on this, it means while the close combat word tag is activated, very common, it's available on, I don't even know how many hundreds of parts these days. Enemy melee damage plus 40%. This means they are actually taking 40% extra melee damage, not that they are doing 40% more damage. Do keep in mind, in terms of how the game's damage formula works, we have 2 types of outgoing damage buffs. The first would be melee damage increased 40%. And now we have enemy melee damage plus 40%, this one here. With that in mind, even though they both do effectively the same thing, they're slotted into different places in the battle formula, meaning the more spread out you have your types, the more damage you'll do overall. If you had 8 instances of melee damage increased 40%, you do a lot of damage for sure. But if you had 4 melee damage increased 40% and 4 enemy melee damage plus 40%, you know, you do more. Splitting it up pretty much does more overall, but that's only if you care about min-maxing. Honestly, don't worry about it. Just hit harder. It doesn't really matter. We're overpowered as is. Alright, so that's a very good first trait, all things considered. Although I find the 40% being a little bit on the lower end when we've seen this go up to 50% before. But I guess as this, isn't considered a, what's the way to put it? I guess like a high demand suit, they haven't increased it up to 50% to really bait people into rolling. I think that'd be the best way to look at it. Job gauge increase down 15%, initial EX skill charge boosted by 30%. That is, I think, the highest modifier for initial EX skill charge boost, 30%, so that's great. Job gauge increase down 15%. This just means that your job gauge will increase 15% slower. It's right there on the tin. Personally, I find the job gauge really isn't relevant. I don't like what it currently does. I think it could be way, way better than its current implementation. But mileage may vary. If you like using your job license, abilities and whatnot through the job gauge, man, you do you. Whatever has you, having fun playing this game. Because that's really all that matters these days. We don't have to worry about min-maxing, bless. So, if you care a lot about your job gauge, probably not the best thing for you to pick up because 15% slower. If you're like me and you go, I don't really care that much, hey, look at that. It's not even a demerit anymore. All right. High mobility, close combat. That's a very interesting spread, actually. Good stuff. Okay. So both high mobility and close combat are very, very accessible and available word tags. They are on a ton of parts. They activate a slew of great traits. So either of them, very good to pick up as a tertiary. Nice. Overall, okay. I wish the modifiers on the outgoing melee damage was a little higher on this, but at the end of the day, the initial EX skill charge boost, the melee damage, the nice tertiary tags, cool. It'd be obviously infinitely better if the word tags at least contained one of the two primary tags, but as this isn't from G Gundam, it's not going to have mobile fighter, and I guess it doesn't have pro tag because, you know, it wasn't a pro tag suit, so gotta work with what you got. That's what back slot's for, right? All right, torso. Oi. Bring up the info for the torso. Yeah, there we go. All right. Shot attack down 20%. EX skill cooldown reduced 23%. So, this is pretty straightforward. You sacrifice 20% of your shot attack, and your EX skill cooldowns are reduced by 23%. That, I believe, is the second highest modifier for EX skill cooldowns. So that's pretty good. The 20% shot attack down obviously only matters if you're running a shot machine, but I would hope you have the common sense to not run a trait like that on a shot machine. You know, unless you're one of those guys that has, like, you know, 120,000 shot attack. You're like, yeah, I can lose 20%, whatevs. Power to you, mate, but ooh. All right. And the second one, after 20 seconds pass, boost job gauge by 70% once. So, this does have a limited use case scenario. 20 seconds is a significant amount of time once you kind of get up there in where your suit's numbers lie. Once you reach a certain threshold of damage, your fights are going to be very, very quick outside of PvP arena. But I guess those will also be really quick because most people are running like super quick nuker skills. So, anyways, the 70% job gauge boost, again, like I said before, to me, kind of useless. I don't like the job gauge that much, but if you're someone that does enjoy it, honestly, it's not terrible. As long as you remember about that 20 seconds needing to pass first, that can definitely reduce its viability in a lot of content. And the first trait, again, for a shot machine, you don't want to run this on a shot machine, but for a melee machine, that's not even a demerit, that is free real estate. And you get a 23% EX skill cooldown. It's good stuff. Very good stuff. The second trait just kind of feels like a waste, honestly, of like a slot. To me, anyways. High mobility, close combat, both workable tertiaries. All right, let's look at the arms. Arm-mounted GN Vulcan. That was the skill that we see at the beginning of the Exia Dark Matters kit here. Let me just scroll back. That's going to be our first skill here that's shown off. This has A+ Pierce, B Power, 11 magazines. This is definitely a run-and-gun scenario. From what I saw in that very short clip, it seems to have a very compressed spread. You're not having the bullets fly around everywhere. It seems very focused. However, a couple of questions do remain. How far are the bullets able to travel before they despawn? And, actually, no, I think that's really the only question I have. Because it doesn't spread out very much from what I see here. As it is a magazine skill, it's going to keep tracking them until it's done firing. Of course, the bullets only have so much homing on them. But I think the only question I really have is how far can those bullets go before they despawn and become useless? Because that does add a lot of viability to a magazine skill. Is it something you have to get up close and personal to use, or is it something you can stay stationary in like the middle of the map and just let your lock on and you just fire, 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 fire? You don't have to worry because the bullets travel all the way across. On paper, looks really good. A+ Pierce, B Power. That is going to hit very hard, ignore a significant chunk of the enemy's defense and resistances, and it has an 11 magazine count on it, which is kind of the standard number for a big magazine. Used to be 7, now it's 11. Cool stuff. You get the most out of the job gauge if you're running an Awakening. Yeah. But I find typically my fights finish before I can even get the job gauge filled. I just don't see much of a point in working to, you know, increase the job gauge fill when, yeah, fight's over before then most of the time. Anyway, good EX skill. Word tag, high mobility 4 base. I do not like the 4 line of tags. I don't think they're really well implemented. I think they can be way better than they currently are, especially considering we're not able to pick the stages that we fight on 9 times out of 10. So you're not even going to be able to get the most bang for your buck for this line of tag. With that in mind, 4 base barely activates any traits, if any. I don't recall any actually needing for maybe like 1 or 2. So its total viability as your tertiary tag is very, very low, all things considered. You'd pretty much be in there just for the 3% parameter boost, I guess. But high mobility at least is a very workable tertiary on counter. So, all right, legs. Brinicle? I don't know. Bionicle and Prominence 2. A+ Pierce, A Power, Cutscene Cooldown, Bindable. This is its big kahuna skill. That's the final ability that we see in the demo for the suit. Let's see here. Yes, it's this one here where he goes full Beyblade and hits them. So, with that in mind, raise speed of your squad by 20%, melee attack of your squad by 49%, and you recover 10% of your armor continuously. Now, that's a very interesting last trait. Squad continuously recovers 10% armor at a time.